Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I just got done teaching a clinic this past weekend and I talked a lot about rein management. A lot of people have a hard time handling their reins and they're not quite sure how to move their hands and manipulate the reins. And a lot of times when people are riding, they grab their reins and they're kind of fixated on those reins, they don't slide their hands down their reins. They're not very fluid with their reins. So I'm just going to make this short little video and I'm going to go through a couple of different rein styles and just a few tips and tricks on how you can kind of help manage your reins. Here I've got split reins on. A very easy way to ride with split reins, and I'll ride a lot of young horses with my split reins like this. I take one side and I put it over the opposite side of my horse's neck, and I take the other tail and I put it on the opposite side of my horse's neck. So my right rein's tail is on the left side and my left rein's tail is on my right side. And what I do is I'll just make this bridge right here in between my hands, is what I call a bridge. And I'll just kind of ride like this with my hands. If I need to shorten my reins, I'm not going to lean forward and shorten my reins because that's going to throw me off balance. It can throw the horse off balance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my reins, slide a hand down, then I'll hold this hand steady and slide this hand down. Now I just made my reins shorter. If I want to make my reins longer, I can just let it drift, bring my hands back together in the center. I can widen them and I can shorten them. When I'm riding like this, I like to take the rein and I like to pinch it in between my ring finger and my pinky. That way I can always have some control of those reins and I can make them shorter or I can make them longer, still maintaining that bridge in between my hands. So I can make them longer, I can let go, but I still have the reins between my pinky and my ring finger, bring my hands together, and I can make them shorter. So that's a kind of a two-handed way that you can ride with your split reins. Another way you can ride with your split reins is put both tail ends of the reins on the left side of the horse. I put them on the left side of the horse because I hold the reins in my left hand. I don't want the tails of my rope or the tails of my reins getting mixed in with my rope coils when I'm doing any kind of roping. So I'll ride like that and I'll put my finger right in between those reins and I'll hold them like this. If I wanted to shorten these reins, there's several options to do it. One is I could grab the tail of my reins, slide my hand down, and now I'm shorter. If I wanted to get longer, I could put my hand underneath my left hand, slide this hand up. Now my reins are longer. Another way you can do it is you can walk your fingers down. That can do it. And you can also just kind of fluff those reins out longer. If I'm riding one-handed and I need to get a hold of my reins with both hands, then what I would do was I would just grab the left rein like that, and then my right rein like that. And right there, I'm two-handed. Now all I got to do is just let go, and I'm back to one-handed. Grab that left rein, grab the right rein, and I'm back to being two-handed. Some things that you guys can do is just practice when you're riding is picking your reins up, sliding your hands down. Pick your hand up, slide your hand down, adjust your reins. Don't lean forward and grab your reins. Just get in the habit of finding what makes sense to you, but just by having hands that open and slide so that you can manipulate your reins however it makes sense to you. But try to keep your body straight and just work your reins. Now I'll grab the next one. So another set of reins that you guys should be pretty familiar with, it's called Makate setup. So I have my reins, it's a loop, and then I have my lead rope. Get your lead rope out of the way. I made some videos about that, but that leaves us with a looped rein. A lot of people, a lot of beginners, a lot of people, they start off in loop reins, and loop reins are probably easier to handle than split reins. Split reins take a little bit of getting used to. I didn't like split reins for a long time, and then once I started making myself ride in them and getting used to the feel, now I really like them. But if you're riding in your Makate setup, it's really easy to shorten your reins. So what I'm doing here is, I could be riding on a loose rein, doing whatever I'm doing. And if I want to shorten them, I can just kind of put my thumbs together like this, and I just widen my hands. Now I'm riding two-handed. If I want to go longer, I'm here. Long, short, long, short, long. If I needed to get a hold of a horse for a one rein stop, to bend a horse around, whatever you want, if I'm riding like this, all I got to do is pick up one hand, slide one hand down, and now I've got control of my horse with one rein. So I'm not leaning down, I'm picking up, sliding the hand down. Going down here, picking up, sliding down, asking him for that flexion. Another way that you can ride in these Makate setups is what we call a California roll. So if I'm riding with my big looped rein and they're really long, these ones aren't really long for this horse, I might lengthen them out if I were to be riding this horse. But what I can do is if I got too much between my hands, is I can roll my reins. So I'm gonna roll my reins and I'm gonna put a little loop in my reins. And the reason we do that is just so that it takes up slack in the rein. And now I'm riding with a little bit of loop in my left hand, and you can ride it in your right hand or your left hand. But now I have shorter reins and I don't have as much slack flip-flopping as I'm riding. So all I did was took that rein and I twisted it and then brought it together, and now I'm holding that loop. I like doing that because when I'm riding, I have that loop there, but if I want to make it longer, want to make my reins longer, just let that loop slide through my hand. For instance, say I want to be riding one-handed in a snaffle bit and I have that loop in the middle there. If I wanted to turn to the left, I would just let that right rein slide as my hand went to the left. And if I wanted to go to the right, I would let that left rein slide as I went to the right. Now notice that my loop just got smaller, so I kind of ran out of turns. You can just grab that loop, make it bigger, and kind of reset. Now I can get my turns in there, letting that rein slide. If I'm roping, I got coils in my hand, I might have a loop in this hand, I might not be able to grab that loop, so you can always bite that loop. Now my loop's bigger, now I got those turns in there. Another way that sometimes I'll ride in a Makate setup is I'll just double it up like this, and I'll just pitch that tail over the left side of my hand. And I'll do that a lot when I'm roping in this kind of setup, because what I can do from here is I can get my turns the exact same way that I got with the California roll, but I don't have that roll to worry about. I can still let a rein slide, pinch, slide down, and I can still let a rein slide to get my turns. So that's another way you can ride in your Makate setup one-handed. A great exercise to do is when you're riding, just be riding on a nice loose passive rein without a California roll, and just practice sliding that hand down, letting go with the right hand, grabbing with the left hand, picking it up, sliding it down. Get real used to having open hands so that you can slide down those reins and adjust as needed. Ride with your California roll. Ride without it. Don't look at your hands, build your California roll. Get your turns one-handed. Don't look at your hand, make your loop bigger. So that's some ways that you can manage your reins while you're riding in a Makate setup. The other set of reins that you guys might see is what we call romal reins, or reins and a romal. So what I have here is I have a set of looped reins going down to my bit, and then I have this end here, and this end here is called the romal. And what it is just it's a quirt that they attach to the rein. So it's now reins and a romal. And you'll ride in this one-handed. You'll ride in this in a shank bit. It's more refinement, higher education for the horse and for the rider. But the way you ride with a set of these is the reins come up through the bottom of your hand and they come out the top of your hand. So you're holding them just like this. Now, my other hand's gonna hold that romal. These are really easy to get used to, because if I want a long rein, I just open my hand and I'm on a long rein. If I want a short rein, I'll just grab my reins and I'll pull up on my romal just like this. Now I've got a short rein. Generally speaking, when you're riding with this setup, your horse is pretty responsive to the outside rein. He's following your body cues, and you don't need a kind of G-HOM two-handed. but I can help my horse with his turn. So say I want to go to the left and he's not really understanding or he needs a little bit of help, I can take the tips of my fingers and pick up that left rein, and that's going to help bring his nose around like that. If I want to go right and I need a little bit of help with the flexion, then I'll take my fingertips, but I'll just kind of push, hope you guys can see that, I'll just kind of push that right rein, and that's going to help with the flexion to the right. Fingertips on that left rein, and that's going to help with that flexion to the left. See how that's working? And another way that we can do this, and I'll do this a lot when I'm working at the higher gates, like say I'm working on a side pass or just want a little bit more flexion at a higher gate. What I can do is if my hand's holding the reins between my thumb and my index finger, I can just grab my left rein. Now watch what's going to happen. See how I built this little loop right here? That's going to give me more contact on that left side. I can go back to my middle. Now I can pinch the right rein and I can just pick up on that right rein. Now I have a loop in that right rein. Now I'm talking to that right side more than the left side. So I can pick my hand up, grab that left rein, put a little loop right here. Now I'm talking to the left side of him more than the right side. So you can ride by putting little loops in there, just by kind of grabbing a rein, letting a rein slide, grabbing a rein, letting one slide. And then with the romals, like I said, it's just real easy for rein adjustment. Just hold on to that romal and you can slide that rein up, pick them up, let them out. Pick them up and let them out. So those are some tips and tricks that you can use in your program when you're riding your horses, whether you're riding in a Makate setup, split reins, or in the romals. But the biggest thing I tell everybody all the time is experiment. Find out what works for you, what makes sense to your hands and your horse. And as you're out riding, just practice sliding down a rein, lifting, sliding down a rein, putting the Makate into your California roll, letting go of the California roll. Try not to focus your vision on your hands. Try to get a feel for it. Ride with feel, and that's how you're going to get it, is by not looking at your hands, just kind of riding at the walk, the trot, and the canter, and just get your horse, or excuse me, not your horse, get your hands used to operating those reins. A lot of times I'll see people riding with their elbows way back here. Okay, if your elbows are way back here, then your reins are way too long. Generally, you want to keep your hands in front of your saddle horn. So if you can remember that, keep your hands in front of your saddle horn. You're not going to bring your elbows back here. If you bring your elbows back here, it's going to kind of put an arc in your back. That's going to put braces in you, and you won't be as fluid with your horse. So try to keep your hands in front of your saddle horn, and just try to become very good and fluid with sliding your hands down your reins, picking them up, letting them go at the walk, the trot, the canter, trying to get all your maneuvers with your horse with your hands in front of your saddle horn. And I think that'll help you guys a lot. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you next time.